What's up, folks? Good morning. We are live on Instagram. We are live on YouTube. My name is Dustin Jones. You are listening to the PT on Ice Daily Show brought to you by the Institute of Clinical Excellence. Today's topic at hand is Couch to 5K, the Old Not Weak edition. Couch to 5K, the Old Not Weak edition. Today is Wednesday. It's Hump Day. Many of y'all are about to get that Hump Day Hustle email. Super pumped about that. We are also going to be talking about all things older adults as per usual. With that in mind, I want to mention our courses, Modern Management of the Older Adult. Julie Brower, she's tuned in live on Instagram. Her and Alex Germano just taught an amazing course out in Great Falls, Montana. If you want to catch our live course coming up, Greenville, South Carolina is going to be this weekend. And then the 17th of September, we're going to be in Newport News, Virginia, and a ton of other courses after that. Also, online courses, MMOA Essential Foundations, our latest cohort sold out. Pretty big cohort for us, just started, and the next cohort's going to be October 12th is that start date, and then Advanced Concepts is going to be starting October 6th. So lots of opportunity to come learn with the MMOA crew. All right, Couch to 5K. So this has been a pretty prevalent topic in my world. I've been thinking about this a lot as I'm taking a group of individuals associated with Stronger Life here in Lexington, Kentucky, from a general fitness class and prepping them for a 5K that's coming up at the end of September that's going to be benefiting UK or University of Kentucky's Doctor Physical Therapy program. And there have been a lot of conversations about the distance of 5K, about running, about traversing 3.1 miles with many of our Stronger Life members. And it's brought up some really interesting conversations that made me reflect and made me think about the power of this path of going from maybe not couch to 5K, but maybe group class to 5K. But made me think about many of you all that are in this unique opportunity or unique situation to be able to really influence people and show them what they're capable of doing. And it's a pretty cool thing to think about. But one thing that was really interesting as these conversations started of, hey, let's train for this 5K was the overwhelming response of, I'm too old to do that. Right? I'm too old to run. I had folks that are deadlifting over 100 pounds, attending a group fitness class more than 3 times a week, doing some pretty impressive things, tell me, oh, no, 5K, no way. No way I can do that. I'm too old to do that. My knees can't handle that. Their perception of what that distance is, what they're capable of doing, did not necessarily line up, despite them being involved in a pretty rigorous fitness class, at least 3 times a week. But how many of you all have heard that from your patients, from some of the folks that you work with? I'm too old to run. I'm too old to go that particular distance. When we look at this objectively, many of you all are already well aware that is not the case whatsoever. Technically speaking, you are not too old to do a lot of these things, especially in the realm of running, in the realm of track and field, in terms of these 5Ks, these half marathons, ultra marathons. We're seeing some crazy trends happening in terms of the age groups of these individuals. One of the most popular ones, Julia Hawkins, the Hurricane, at 106 years old, she holds the 100-meter world record in the 105 up division. She is the only competitor in that division, but she is someone that you'll see kind of make the rounds on the internet every year when she competes and ultimately breaks her record and sets a new world record in the 100-meter dash. Amazing individual that's really challenging what is possible at that age. Flo Myler is another one. She's a pole vaulter, pole vault world record holder. She's 88 years old currently. She picked up pole vaulting at 65, and she also competes in a whole host of other events. The steeplechase, 400 meter, 100 meter. She does long jump. She does all kinds of different events at the age of 88. And then we have some of the trends in participation. Think about the ultra marathon crowd. This, if you've ever done an ultra, above a marathon, whether it's on the road or trail, you're seeing a pretty significant change in the average age of those participants. In 1989, the average age of the ultra marathon community was around 40 years old. And between 2010, 2020, that average age is now 45 years. So pretty significant increase. And a lot of that is some of these older individuals that are starting to participate. So I don't think you're too old to run. I'm sorry, Betty, but age is a factor, but not a big factor here. You can do it, Betty. Now, when we think about why we would want to encourage some of our folks to participate in something like a 5K, and this is one of the biggest benefits that I have witnessed happen right in front of my eyes, and many of you all have experienced this as well, is that we basically give people an opportunity to learn what they're actually capable of doing, which sounds simple, right? But it's profound in so many ways. It has such a big impact on so many levels for these people's lives. What we're ultimately doing, we're giving them that opportunity to see what is possible. But ultimately, what we're doing is we're matching their perception of their capabilities with reality. Most people perceive they're not able to do or handle as much as what they can actually do, right? Many of you all have experienced this, especially for you all that have done CrossFit, right? You go into this intimidating CrossFit class, you're scared to death. No way I can lift that empty barbell over my head. And then fast forward 6 months and, you may be snatching, 70, 80 over 100 pounds, right? You really challenge what you perceive as being capable, and think of all the decisions that influences of what you think you can handle in your day-to-day life, not just physical stress, but mental stress as well. And we have the opportunity to do that with something like a 5K, that people don't perceive that they're able to handle that type of distance, that type of duration. And you give them the opportunity to see what they're truly capable of doing. And that really challenges their perception, improves their confidence, and influences the decisions that they make in so many realms of life. Big implications. And we have the opportunity to do that. So let's talk about some things that you want to consider if you are taking your patient, your client from couch to 5K, if you will, or couch to whatever distance, or maybe group fitness class to 5K. What three things are we going to focus on to help people along that journey? The first one that we want to really consider and heavily weigh in that training process is power training and plyometric training as well. We typically don't associate power training and plyometric training with older adults, but I would say it's probably even more important for this demographic, especially when we are trying to maybe run for the first time in many, many, many years or even decades. The reason being is that most folks, and this is very common when we ask them, are you exercising? A lot of folks will say yes in this demographic, but then you dig in a little bit deeper, and what are they doing? Walking, right? They've got some type of walking program. They got some type of morning routine. They're taking their dog around the neighborhood, a couple laps. Their dog's stopping every 100 meters to take a whiz. So they're not getting a ton of continuous effort, but they are getting a lot of kind of that low intensity, long-ish duration, aerobic based activity in walking, which is awesome. And I love it. And I want people to continue to do it and do more of it. But one thing that most folks are neglecting is that power training or plyometric training. They're not training those fast twitch muscle fibers. They're not training for that quickness. They're not training their connective tissue to handle that kind of load. And we can do that. Obviously, we can scale this in so many ways, and we cover this in detail in our MMOA courses, particularly MMOA Live is where we hit on this relatively hard, is that we can scale power training and plyo training to get those quick, powerful movements, to train their muscles, to train their connective tissue, to train their joints to be able to handle that type of load that's going to translate in their ability to handle running for a relatively long distance, like a 5K. They're doing walking, awesome, keep doing that, but we need to implement more of this power/plyometric training. Be very thoughtful when you introduce this. Usually you want to introduce in lower volume, so lower bits of some type of plyometric training or power training, see how they respond, and then gradually increase from there. It's very easy to do a little too much too soon in this department. So do relatively low volume and then see how they're responding and then be able to adjust after that. So one, power training and plyometric training. That's absolutely huge. Number two, when we're talking about running and something that you want to be very thoughtful of, especially in this population, is cadence, steps per minute. If you want to learn more about cadence, I encourage you to listen to the whole host of episodes that the running crew, the endurance crowd with PT on Ice has done some very interesting research on cadence, on what that can do for individuals, what it can't do as well. But particularly in this population, looking at someone's cadence and cadence training can be very helpful. What I found just anecdotally with the folks that I've worked with is that their cadence is very, very low, very low, lower comparatively to some of the younger runners that you may be working with. I've had folks that are just going 120, 130s steps per minute, kind of borderline between that run, speed walk. I'm not sure what to call that, kind of that transition phase. And when our cadence is that low, we are maybe experiencing some relatively high ground reaction forces. Our effort may be relatively higher compared to if we were to just bump that cadence up a little bit. That can make things a little bit easier for folks. Even a change of cadence of 5 to 10% can be significant for these individuals to reduce those ground reaction forces, maybe decrease their overall effort for their running, but then ultimately, hopefully, decrease some of the painful symptoms that they may have. A lot of the folks that I've worked with, they will complain of, that general knee ache or general knee pain after relatively long bouts of running if they haven't been running for a while. And we can manipulate that a lot with cadence training. So bumping their cadence up, and you can play around with this metronomes, right? There's playlists on Spotify of particular beats per minute, but bumping people's cadence up as little as 5 to 10% can be very, very effective for individuals to where it's going to make them more tolerable. So cadence training is huge. Now, keep in mind, there's not that perfect number. There's not that perfect 175, steps per minute that everyone should be achieving. It's very subjective. Typically, it's going to be a little bit higher than what they're doing now, but you want to play around with that and see what feels good to them, and help them make that more of a habit, which we can train, which is good news. All right, 1, power training, plyometric training. 2, cadence training. Number 3, and this is a huge one, digestible goals. Digestible goals. Many of the folks, if we are going to say 5K for you, you may think that's nothing, right? 3.1 miles, I could do that in my sleep. But for someone that hasn't ran maybe in upwards of 4, 5, 6 decades, that seems absolutely impossible. 5K is a big deal for a lot of these individuals, and you need to be aware of that. So instead of a 5K, what if we're doing 3 sets of 1 mile? What if we're doing 6 sets of half a mile? Really interesting podcast I want to bring your attention to. The Huberman Lab podcast, we reference this all the time on PT on Ice. They did a recent episode on the science of setting goals. And there's a really interesting researcher that looked at the trends of elite runners, of how they are able to do the things that they do. I mean, think of some of the folks that are, cruising sub 6 mile pace for a marathon, which is absolutely absurd. How are they doing that? What are they thinking about? What are they setting their goals on? What are they doing throughout that race to get that type of performance? And a big trend in that realm of these elite endurance runners is that they will have digestible goals. So instead of, I'm going to run 26.2 miles, I'm going to do 26 rounds of 1 mile. 1 mile is much more manageable than a full marathon. And so they're breaking these goals down into digestible chunks. So 1, that's a big one. And you can use that with your training program, right? You may want to start off with just rounds of a manageable distance. And over time, you may increase that distance as you maintain the rounds, or you may decrease the rest as you do those rounds or intervals, but you want to break it up. Interval based, if you will, is going to be very helpful for these individuals. So that's 1, digestible goals. Number 2 is a strategy that these elite runners use that could be helpful for your individuals is focal based goals. So as they're running this course, they are fixating on a focal point in the distance, and they're trying to get to that point. And as they get to that point, that stop sign, that tree, whatever it is, it may be the shorts of the runner in front of you as you're tracking them down. As you reach that point, awesome. I achieved that goal. I got that dopamine hit. Now let's set the next goal. What's that next thing in the horizon, that bend in the road, or that runner that I'm going to track down? These focal based goals. So as we are increasing our distances, setting visual fixation on, a particular object. Getting to that object, get that dopamine hit, you feel a little bit better, set the next goal. And you can use that to your advantage to maintain your performance over time. And you can do this with anybody, right? Not just those elite runners, but we can do this with folks that may be going from couch to 5K, that may be going from not running in 4, 5, 6 decades to being able to traverse 3.1 miles. And that's a beautiful thing. All right. So 1, power training and plyo training. Implement that into the training program. Odds are they're neglecting it. Odds are they probably are already doing some type of walking program. So that part's probably covered. You need to get those fast twitch muscle fibers, train that connective tissue up to be able to handle running. That's 1. 2, cadence. Bumping their cadence up could ultimately reduce their ground reaction forces, make running a little bit more efficient for them, and ultimately reduce any painful or hopefully painful symptoms that'll make this more tolerable. And number 3, digestible goals. Make it manageable. It's not a 5K. It's not 3.1 miles. It may be 3 rounds of 1 mile. And that is much more manageable for folks. And then using those visual fixations as well. So that's what I got. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. If you've helped someone go from couch to 5K, help them achieve something they thought was impossible, I would love to hear your thoughts on Instagram. Go to the video, leave a comment. I'd love to get a conversation going. I'm going to go right now to our run series that's starting at 8 a.m. and help folks dial in their cadence as we speak. So I hope you have a lovely rest of your Wednesday, and I will talk to y'all soon.